Hello, everyone. We're back after a little break. Us ladies who are sort of behind a stand in the park. There's Fifi and I from the UK, and Sylvia, who's over in Australia. Hope everyone's well. Yeah, obviously we've had the Easter break. Yeah, we've all sort of taken a little bit of a step back, just enjoying a little bit of time and space. And yeah, but we're back here in the UK. We've got our next Unite for Freedom March coming up on Saturday, which we're going to have a little chat about. It's something different sort of happening this time, as well as the march around London. There's going to be a Unite for Freedom Fair, which I think is a fab idea, and hopefully Fifi can tell us a bit more about it, whether you can sort of disclose any of the people that you got booked to kind of be there, and sort of information, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, well, the stalls they're kind of to be confirmed, so we will be putting it out there. But I know that Keep It Cash have confirmed that they'll be there, which is obviously all about keeping money, actual physical money, flowing. So they'll be there dishing out lots of information. Yeah, but the rest, I think, as they're coming through, people can email, so I'll put the details under this for people to get in touch. But really, it's anyone who's got any kind of initiative going. You know, we've got loads of community projects happening now, and it's a perfect place for where you've got lots of people coming together to get information, to join up with different things that are going on, to get their own started. We know loads of people are growing food now, which is really taking off. So there's lots of different initiatives going on around the country that people can get involved with. Anyone that might want to speak, to give a speech about something, it's really just a way of we were talking a bit about this earlier, weren't we, Sam, about looking ahead, looking forward, and it's all about creating the future and creating the reality that we want. And so this is an opportunity really for people that are making headway. They are getting things in place. It is happening, but quite often we don't know about it, do we? Like, people are getting on with things in their areas. It'd be brilliant to actually get an idea as to what people are doing and inspire other people to do the same. So we've got awakened businesses springing up everywhere. So, you know, we've got awakened pages, obviously, that's been amazing. So, you know, that's a whole initiative in itself. So yeah, anyone that wants to have a stall, get involved, there will be the email address. I think check underneath, but I think it's hello@unitedforfreedom.com. But check, because I'm not entirely sure. But yeah, it should be good. It should be good. It's kind of taking that control, isn't it, rather than just being against things that are happening.
Yes.
Actually, which obviously we need. It's important to show that we're resisting and we're not going along with this stuff, but at the same time we must have that action and those things happening where we can actually just part ways with the system.
Yeah.
So a real kind of networking, inspiration vibe, just really, because I think, you know, what we say time and time again, that it is about working together. And as you say, there's some fantastic projects sort of going. Yeah, it'd be great to have, you know, so many in one place, that, you know, with all the sort of like minds of people that can actually really get on board with these things, take them home to where they're going, get them started. And really kind of, you know, provide an alternative.
Well, it's really empowering, isn't it? Like, it's empowering to like learn how to look after yourself and know that regardless of what comes, you've got access to alternative education, alternative health, alternative, communities, food growing, all that sort of stuff.
About taking your power back.
Yeah, it's all those alternative systems. Businesses as well, like I said, people love to support businesses that are awake. We want to be giving our money to them. So you've got people offering services, all kinds of things. So literally anything that people have got going on, then do make an inquiry, because this is definitely where we need to be heading with things now. We know what the problems are only too well, and it's quite easy to get really overly focused on that and to get into the panic and fear. But there are so many alternatives. I keep saying it, we are endlessly creative beings. That's what we are. Human beings are creative beings. We can't help it. You're doing it by default, 24/7. It's unconscious for the most part. But when you tap into that conscious creation, we're actually unstoppable. This is what they're terrified of. This is why.
I mean, there's been a lot of work to suppress it for decades, suppress the power that we hold.
That's right.
They know.
I think many of us are breaking through that.
Yes.
There's not many problems which, if like that Margaret Atwood quote, I think it was, a small group of committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. That one. I think I botched it, but it's so true. Like when you get people like-minded get together and work on a problem, solutions come out.
There has to be a solution to every problem. You can't have, it's the yin and yang, the polar opposites, the other end. You can't have one without the other. And it's just, if we can keep our focus more on this end, we're ever mindful, of course, that this is going on. And but if you're drowning in that, and your focus is only on that, then you're not able to see solutions or a way out, or alternatives. So
because you can't create from a fear-based paradigm. Like if you're living in fear, and you can't, that's a really hard place to create. It's a really easy place to destruct from. It's really easy to destruct when you're in that mindset. But to I think when we create, it comes from a place of like truth and love. And, all of us as individuals, we might have really great ideas, but like when we three talk, Fifi might say something which makes me have an idea, which I say to you guys, and then Sam has an idea from that. So, it builds and builds. And at the end of it, we surprise ourselves like what we come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you got any marches or rallies or anything coming up in Australia?
Yeah, I told you about, there's a national one on the 14th of May called by Reclaim the Line, called Sack Them All, which I think that's self-explanatory. That's the week before the election. And then I remembered another one, actually, a friend of mine is putting on, and her team of people, they all work together, called Sydney. They're the Sydney Freedom Community, and they're putting on a very similar, sounds like what you're doing. It's all, the speakers are all about sustainability, education, like workshops where people can learn the tools they need to, create these communities of the future, I guess. Like it's not going to happen overnight, but, just sparking ideas in people and letting them know that there's other people out there who are already thinking about stuff and who might have already put together initiatives and programs that they can, bring to their community.
It's really exciting.
Powerful stuff.
Really.
It really is.
I think
exciting and tiring.
Definitely tiring, but exciting. I think we have so much potential and so much power and so much ability, but obviously that does come from everybody working together and sharing ideas and sparking off each other, as you said. And I know some people may disagree, but I feel quite hopeful and optimistic about the future. I think yes, of course, I'm well aware, I'm not blind to you know, what's in store for us from, you know, the agendas and the elites and what they're kind of planning. Yeah, I get all that, but at the same time, I can also see the potential within our community and what we actually have, you know, the power to do. And I think we were discussing earlier, Fee, that it's not so much about creating the new exactly, it's more, you know, getting back in touch with our roots, you know, the way that humanity has lived for centuries, you know, as communities, supporting each other, you know, being more natural and coming from a place of, you know, being more natural, sustained, all that kind of stuff. And I do think it's a very exciting time with, you know, a huge amount of future.
But it'll be even better because, you know, our collective consciousness has learned so much in this past 100, 200, 300, whatever years.
Just the last 2 years, you know? For me is
even right. So true.
Yeah, and we were saying as well a bit earlier about you know, technology, it can be an amazing thing. It's just, unfortunately, the technology that actually benefits us and everyone and everything has been suppressed. And we've become dependent on this technology that's been created to remove us.
To absorb us even, you know.
Completely distract and absorb our attention as well.
It's like information overload. It just comes at you. It just comes at you. And you were saying before how you did that weekend without any phone, and you're a new woman.
It was bliss. It was just to not have the phone on. So I just spent a long weekend in Wiltshire in a yurt just down the road from Stonehenge. It was absolutely lovely. And I'd already decided, I mean, there was no electricity there. So it, you know, once your battery goes anyway, but I'd already decided no internet. So I actually just switched the phone off completely, and it was off the whole time. And the difference, just the difference of a few days of not having that constant stream of information. And I'm not just talking about doom and gloom and all that kind of it, just all of it, you know, even the good information can be overwhelming as well. It's just it takes you out of the present moment.
Absolutely.
So I'm not saying there's not a place for all of this, but it's very difficult to not get sucked in and not be constantly looking at. I was saying as well, my kind of personality, I'm very much like, if someone's messaging, I need to get back to them straight away, or the phone beep, and there is that kind of look at you, this kind of addiction.
It's so cute.
To checking. So yeah, it was really liberating. You kind of remember who you were before all of this. You know, I'm old enough to remember a time before mobile phones, so
wasn't it different?
They've just become there's almost like a fear of missing out, or
FOMO.
And this, you must be contactable at all times, and what if there was this terrible emergency that's never happened in all my life, you know, where there's been someone will phone someone, it's fine, you know. I mean, again, there's a place for them if they're used in the right way. But
absolutely, it's not really implanted into your head or anything like that, you know. Like,
preferably not that.
I think it all comes down to what, you know, we talk about it time and time again, but it is about striking that balance, you know, of between everything. And there is a lot to balance. We're like master jugglers, well, trying to master juggling of, you know, keeping up to date, pushing back, creating the new, being present and grounded, being in touch with ourselves, our mental health, all of that stuff. And it is a lot. It is a lot, and I think, you know, it's a valuable lesson to everybody, really. It's even if you're not going away anywhere, you know, maybe just switch phone off for a few days and just you know, remember what it is. I mean, I got my first phone when I was 11 or 12, I think, and the height of it was like Snake on a Nokia 3210 or something. I remember whiling away hours, even then, just playing Snake, collecting this little dot.
And you got to wonder, like, we can remember what it was like before phones and instant access to information, but the generations after us, they had them from the get-go. They can't remember a time without them. What's that going to look like in 20, 30 years, you know?
It's like
I think
people with TVs and things like that, isn't it? That was one of the things before, you were the weirdo if you didn't watch telly. Like, I got rid of mine years and years ago. I mean, I got used to not having one because I travelled so much. I was backpacking around Asia, and you know, most of the time you just didn't have access to it, so you got used to it, and then, you know, starting to realise what it was all about. It's like, no thank you. So it's kind of that, you know, that was the generation that was the major distraction. Now we've come on to this, the next phase, and yeah, people can't, youngsters, it's easier for us to, even though it's not actually that easy, but it's more easy for us to detach from that, because we can remember a time when we weren't beholden to it. But if that's what you've been born into, and that's the whole problem that we face, isn't it, with everything, is that you're born
undoing years and decades of this
normal,
saturation.
isn't it? Yeah, everything that we're living in. I mean, you might get, I've always had the inkling, like, this is not normal, whatever this world is, like society, I should say, what we're living in, you get that sort of feeling inside that this is not how things should be. But at the same time, you've adapted to it, because what you're born into, you don't really, most people don't look around and question. It's just like, this is what we do, this is what's always been done. Or
Fifi, that's so true. And I just have to tell you guys something. I was in New South Wales recently. I was on the train. You know, usually you're on the train, you got your headset on, whatever, or you're playing on your phone, doing whatever. But I happened to be in this little part of the carriage with some women, and we started, you know, strangers to me, and we struck up a conversation, and we ended up chatting for the full like hour and something. And it was unusual, you know, like obviously I'm not a shy person, so I don't have problems with that. But, you know, if people are looking down, you don't want to interrupt them, just be like, oh, hi, I'm Sylvia, you know, it's like weird. But just that we were all ready to engage. And I was like, this is really cool. This is so different. I haven't had an experience like this on public transport. And even when I was in the UK years and years ago, like people would read their newspapers, and it was all very, you know, on their own stuff. And I think maybe there's going to be some sort of backlash to that now, where people are going to start looking up, you know, start striking up conversations or something, maybe.
That'd be nice. That'd be great reconnection.
Yeah. We've got over here now this campaign to stop people staring at each other. Have you heard this, Sylv? I don't know.
I've not seen that.
Oh yeah, the government's out to stamp out.
What's the time limit? What's the time limit? Are you allowed to like briefly look, or is it like a 5-second thing? What is that?
Staring can now be classified as I don't know if it's like actual sexual assault, but you know, we're talking like along those lines.
Harassment type.
Yeah, I think it would be. And it's just like, my God, they really look. We know as women it happens, like, especially on public transport. That seems to be where the focus is. And it's just like, yeah, it's not great, but if you've got a bit of backbone, which we should all have, then it's just like, you know, I tell people straight. I think you can imagine. I mean, I think maybe if you were on your own and it's a bit of a vulnerable situation,
you read the room, you read the situation, you have
to now. But I think, you know, looking beyond, you know, on the surface, oh yeah, well that's good, because we don't want people feeling victimized, but that's exactly what they do want, is everyone feeling like a helpless victim the whole time.
Well, you can very much see in society there's a huge move that being out in the world is very unsafe. Let's all live in the metaverse where, you know, no one can get hurt, and like it's all, you know, and
that's life is risky. It is risky to be alive. And what do you do if someone's staring at you? Do you then go off the train and you go to the police officer and you're like, officer, this person was staring at me for 35 seconds and I did not appreciate it.
Would you not?
How is something
You'd
like
hope
that
so.
forced? Yeah, but we can see here. I mean, look, it's just like there are unpleasant things in life. you know, and actually it's about just changing things from you know, the ground
Within.
up. It's not, it's always sort of slapping a sort of sticking plaster in things. But they also want to create, again, it's very much between men and women, you know, yet more division.
And the other genders, Fifi, don't
be
discriminatory.
I can't.
I don't know whether it's safe to go there.
All I know is that when you do a gender reassignment surgery, you only get 2 choices. That's all I know.
But yeah, it's just crazy. We can
Freedom of expression is one thing, but come on, you know,
it's
a spade is a spade.
The limit. Hello. Really, if I have to go running off, it's because the dog is getting used to the new house and the cats, and he's got a bad leg. Do you want to hop up? Sorry, that's a distraction.
My cats haven't made an appearance yet, which is unusual.
Quite quiet, haven't they?
I'm surprised my dog did. Where is he? Oh, look at that face. Milou. Animals are great. Can't believe, I mean, maybe we don't want to get into this, but some of the videos I've seen in, you know, Shanghai with the killing the pets. What is going on in the world? Honestly.
This is what I mean. Look, it's so overwhelming. And I keep banging on about it all the time, about going within, and it doesn't mean that we ignore the craziness that's going on, but there are things that they're just beyond our control. All that can happen when you focus on something like Shanghai,
what you can see here,
you just that's when the fear arises, and the panic, and it kind of limits.
It makes me really angry, to be fair. That's what arises in me, just a real rage.
And rightfully so, but it's like, where do you go from there? And
exactly,
anything that we create is going to be a million times more effective and just stronger if it's coming from that place of inner peace, a rootedness, like you're saying. When we're creating from a place of fear and, oh my god, we've got to do this now, and we've got to, you know, and it just stunts everything. So it's such a test. Being alive at this time is just such a mammoth, it does feel like an endurance test, and I do think this is a spiritual war. I mean, it plays out in the physical, of course, what we believe to be, you know, physical, 3D, but really we've got to transcend, like to get a bit beyond what's playing out in front of our eyes. And again, it's this survival fear, but we have to keep remembering, look, we're here for a finite time. Whatever happens, even in the best situation where we're having wonderful lives and we're all fulfilled, it's going to end. And that puts a whole different slant on it.
I think it's also, you know, being mindful of what is in our control, what is in our power, what can we do, because, you know, it's all very well, you know, being aware. I've seen videos in groups of what's happening in Shanghai, and if I'm totally honest, I tend to just scroll past it because there is nothing I can do, and the fear of, oh well, what if that comes here? Well, if that's going to come here, that's going to come here. There really is, that is out of my control. But what I can do is work on creating, you know, a place where I am more at peace, I'm calmer, I'm more able to focus on the things that I can change, the things I can prepare for. I've been out in the garden for a lot the last couple of weeks, preparing the ground, planting. I know you've been doing it as well, Fee. You know, being with my children, doing a lot of work sort of on my computer with organisation and coordination and that kind of stuff, and really focusing on what we can do to actually make a difference to right here, right now. I'm really just trying to focus on that, because I am very, very emotional person. I'm quite a bit of an empath. I tend to get quite overwhelmed with that stuff. I really feel it, and if I allow myself to go into that space of, I kind of almost connect with the emotions that must be going on in Shanghai of this just fear and sadness and anger and just everything, and it's very, very difficult to detach from once I'm there. So I try not to just go. I just try not to go there and work with what I've got.
Can I say what I think the takeaway is from it? Like,
yeah, of course,
the end point is now really, really bad, but if we can look and identifying how, that country, town, whatever, in anywhere in the world, something happens we don't like, we can identify how they got to that point. For example, like, it's a communist country, and we've seen aspects of communism, trying to come through here in Australia. And it's important to recognize them and know that if we continue down that path, like the surveillance, the digital identity and everything like that, then that is, maybe not tomorrow, but maybe in 10 years we'll end up there. So like you said, preparing now, like what we can do, and really sort of strengthening, our community bonds and our resolve not to get to that point is like really where I'm at, sort of.
Yeah,
because you're right. We can't do anything at that point, but we can stop it happening in our own countries or communities.
I don't know. I don't want to kind of bring it down. I do wonder, how much, even, as a free community, how much we can actually do
trust
to stop it, when you think that there is still a significant proportion of the population that kind of don't see where this is going. They don't see this kind of slippery slope. Part of me kind of feels like we're almost going to end up there, and people are going to like sit up and go, hang on, what happened? How did we get here? Why didn't nobody warn me this was happening? And then we're all over here going, but
there was a guy who wrote a book called The Great Reset. It's not a conspiracy theory. They think it's a conspiracy theory.
If we're all working on, systems that work outside of those plans, and systems that can sustain us and provide for us and allow us to thrive and survive, then, we at least have something in place for, if it gets that bad, then we've set something up as an alternative that we can at least
and we can have potato guns to shoot the drones out of the sky, so it's fine.
We must remember as well that this whole thing is founded on fear. This is why when I say it's a spiritual battle and it's a psychological operation, it's all about how we feel. Because if you're not living in fear, it doesn't matter what they do. It really doesn't. And this is what the work is. This is when I talk about it being like a test here, because in the end, we have got to move beyond that fear. Every awakened being, every fully realized sage, master, whatever, they went through it. They came through the fear out the other end and realized, I'm absolutely untouchable. You become imperturbable, and that's what Les Levinson called it. He's a guy that awakened. He released every fear in his body. He had a diagnosis that he was not going to live. He basically had to just sit and wait to die almost, and he was like, I'm not going to end like this, and this whole process. But he's very inspiring man. But that's what he talked about was reaching this state of imperturbability. It didn't matter anything external. You've got full control over how you feel, how you respond, and they can't bear that. There's nothing worse than,
it's almost like confidence. Would you say it's almost like confidence, just having confidence in whatever comes to you? In
the truest sense of the word, because you know what you are. It's not who you are even. You know what you really are. And this is a temporary experience in this crazy, whatever it is we've signed up for, this is not it. And it doesn't mean that it doesn't play out the way it's supposed to, but if you've got that's what is the absolute game changer. If you are not in fear, doesn't matter. You can break my body, do what you want. You can't get at this. There's something.
That's right.
that can
Yeah, I've been
never be damaged, never be threatened. And that's what they want. That's what they want, is to get in there. It's almost like they're after your soul, you know, like they want complete, and they can't have it, but they've got this survival fear thing has been going on in us for a long time
They
now.
can't take it, but people can like give over control.
Give it over,
and that's
exactly.
problematic.
And when we take that back, when you get that bigger perspective on things, you can enter into a much quieter space, and answers come to you. The way is made clear, the next step of the path, you know, you're not in that frenetic fear space, which is all very physically focused, isn't it? It's all about the survival of the body, which again, yeah, of course, we are physically focused beings. So, and we do perpetuate the species. We're animals in that sense as well. There's all this primal stuff that's very necessary. Fear is necessary on this level, but it's a practical, sensible fear. It's, yeah, I'm not going to step off that cliff because that's it then, and that's not kind of, you know, sensible. But this is something else. It's that we've been programmed to view death and loss and things like that not as a natural part of being here, but as, all right, Milo, here he goes. Andy's home. Yeah, we've been programmed to fear that beyond, beyond everything else, and it's just not true. And it's not actually true of every culture. When you travel and you get, you know, you see this other side of things. So it doesn't work as well, this whole thing, everywhere in the world. Which is why they got their different kind of ways of rolling things out. But
yeah, I've been listening a lot to Dolores Cannon lately.
Oh yeah.
I found it so sort of enlightening, inspiring. It's brought me a lot of peace. She has a lot of things to say that kind of really make sense to me, really resonate with me, and yeah, it's certainly helping me. I would yeah, anyone who's kind of interested in the kind of things that Fee's just been talking about, you know, I would highly recommend kind of tuning into some of Dolores Cannon's videos. Obviously she sadly passed away a few years ago now, but her work is continuing with sort of, you know, large team of people.
She wrote some books, didn't she, too?
Yeah, the 3 waves of volunteers is very relevant at the moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely fascinating. I'm reading it at the moment. Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, it gives you sort of a greater perspective, I think.
that is what we all need, I think. That's the thing. It is, we need that greater perspective where it's not all about we must physically survive at any cost. That's what they're guaranteed to exploit. That's what they're depending on, that response. It's an unconscious kind of primal response. They know what they're doing, but that's really all they've got, because it's like that point where you've literally got nothing to lose. That's when we're at our most dangerous to them, because you're like, well,
that's right.
And that is the imperturbability right there, because you're like, bring it on them. I have no fear.
And I also think you were talking about death before, and I think that fear of death is a really big thing. I know I used to have that, like where I couldn't sleep some nights because I was afraid if I went to sleep I'd die, which is just terrifying. But I've been thinking about it a lot recently. I don't have that fear anymore. But back like in the day, a lot of people, you get older and you die at home with your family, and the children and everything and the grandchildren would see the process. They would, you know, be there to say goodbye. They would see what death was. But nowadays, it's so removed. You know, we put the elderly people in a home and they're hidden away, and we just get a phone call, oh, such and such is dead. And it's like, oh, okay. They 1 minute they're there, next minute they're gone. And we've lost sort of that, where that process is old age death I'm talking about mainly, you know.
Yeah, we have. It's become
so I think, yeah, and fear of death, I think they're really capitalizing on that with this whole everything at the moment.
It's
Everything.
But if you read the Dolores Cannon book, some of her books I've read, I think that one you said, the 3 waves of volunteers, and that really helped me as well. And regardless of what happens, we can't do anything about it. It's going to happen to everyone. unless you get the Neuralink, and then who knows what will happen to you. I don't know. I guess.
Live on
Who
the
knows?
live on the cloud. Live on forever as some sort of, I don't know,
I mean,
holographic
eternal
robot or
life.
something.
Imagine that, stuck in somewhere forever.
No thanks. I think
Yeah.
we'll all want and deserve a break after this, to be honest. But the time is running out. So
Oh, yes, got 3 minutes.
yes, we've got our warning, and my battery lights also come on. I don't want another sudden.
This one was a bit of a deep one, wasn't it?
But yeah. So let's do it again soon, ladies. Hope everyone's really well. And
Yes,
yeah.
indeed. Always.
Yeah.
Soul sisters.
Yes. Well, so speak.
Lots of love to all the people standing and
Yeah.
Yeah, love to all
holding the
standers
line.
everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Lots of love.
Oh.
Bye.
Bye.